All right, we are up and running.
Check all channels.
Everything says we're in action. You guys want to confirm?
Facebook, good. Instagram, good. YouTube, good.
Looks like we got audio. That's good.
We're good on all of them.
All right.
All right, welcome everybody to the 034 Motorsport live chat. We're here to discuss all your questions about all things 034 and certainly any automotive topics you're interested in bringing up. I'm Javad Shadzi and this is Nate Stewart. Please submit your questions into the comment field of the social media browsing experience of your choice. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Please, if you ask us update questions about when things are going to be done or ready, please don't expect a response. If we have time, we will get to those. But our goal is to get good in-depth responses to all the actual questions about the topical questions that we get. And we don't always know when things are going to be done or ready. And sometimes we say and we end up getting flack for it. So anyways, and we don't always have the information in front of us about that. So all right. I miss anything? We can jump into some questions.
Yeah, just keep in mind, the questions are coming from multiple platforms. So
Yeah.
some people get spicy thinking we're just making up questions or not getting to them or
Yeah.
ignoring stuff. We get a bunch of questions coming in from several places. So we'll get to as many as we can.
That's right. Like I said, we're on three different platforms. So if you haven't seen the question, it's probably on the other two platforms. We also get emailed questions. We can also talk about whatever we want. It's just we're just two guys. So, anyways, someone says, "Why are people hating on Chinese suppliers?" In my opinion, it doesn't matter who makes a product as long as it meets set specifications. Yeah, I can't agree more. Over the years, we've intentionally not discussed where our products are made. There is a misconception that products made in America are great and products made in China are bad. And that's kind of this, I don't know, rule of thumb or conventional wisdom that people have. And it's just not true. You can buy shitty, poorly made products in the US or from Japan or from Germany, and you can buy world-class top quality products in China. I would say overall there is a lot of shitty stuff made in China and Vietnam and Indonesia and India and places like that, but there's also some really good stuff. In fact, I'm as a hobby, a speaker designer and builder, and there's a company called SB Acoustics, which manufactures all its drivers in Indonesia. And so the products are designed in Denmark and manufactured in Indonesia. And they brought some of the best, highest quality products to market at a lower price than some of their competitors who were making these products in Scandinavia. So they took the same engineering, and like you said, they managed the specifications, set up a factory in Indonesia, and they brought the same product, same ultra high quality premium products to market at about half the price. The other issue is not a lot of stuff is made in the U.S. anymore. You may hear about onshoring manufacturing and offshoring and all this stuff. When it comes to automotive parts and products, like things made from molded rubber, cast aluminum, steel, machined products, low-cost consumer products that don't cost thousands of dollars, that kind of stuff just simply really isn't made in the U.S. anymore. You can definitely find this guy makes stuff in the U.S. Yeah, there's a couple people, but There's not an industry of that. And so if we want to have a turbocharger like this made, even Garrett, who Honeywell, this is an American company, doesn't make this stuff in the US. They may do assembly and stuff here, and we do a lot of assembly here as well. But there's not even places to get it made, even if you wanted to. And so that's the big challenge. I'm really trying not to get political here. I'm just trying to talk as someone who works in this industry and someone who manufactures, a U.S. company that manufactures products. There really is not an opportunity to manufacture automotive parts in the U.S. Now, the U.S. is still the #1 biggest manufacturing economy on Earth, bigger than China. The money generated through manufacturing in U.S. is even bigger than China. Now, that's not making, plastic reusable plates and, rubber spatulas and motor mounts. That's the U.S. making rockets, spaceships, X-ray, laser scanning,
lots of
high-tech medical devices. That's us making satellites that are being sent out of our solar system. That's building, $30 billion F-35 jets. The most advanced high-tech products on Earth are by far manufactured en masse in the U.S. So if you own a machine shop, right, and you're asked to machine something out of aluminum, and I want to bring a automotive product to market, let's say you guys are going to pay about $50 for this thing, and so I can go to a machine shop and I say, hey, can you make 1,000 of them for me? And they're like, yeah, we can do it. How much can you pay? Well, I can probably pay like $20-30 for this thing. I got to sell it for 50. And then they pick up the phone and it's Lockheed Martin wants a similar part, finer tolerances. And Lockheed Martin's going to pay $2,000 each. Who are you going to spend your time machining products for if you're in the US? It's not us. So there are a lot of machining companies and facilities in the US, but they're going to take their business where the money is, and that's medical, aerospace, high tech, military. That's the kind of stuff that if you're going to make something in the US, you're going to make it for a company like that. I have a little story that kind of proves this point. We used to do a lot of machining here at 034 Motorsport. We had 5 CNC machines. And I was very proud of it. Nate and I worked really hard to buy those machines. Nate actually didn't sleep for 2 weeks learning how to program the VF2.
I was the machining department for a handful.
He literally learned how to program CAD CAM a CNC machine from scratch. Never went to school or got any training. And I don't know what you did. Read the manual, went on the internet.
Figured it out.
Yeah. Super smart guy. I figured it out. So anyways, we had 5 CNC machines here. And we had a customer that worked at Google. And so they were shipping some billion-dollar server somewhere. And they had put this server on this big manufactured pallet. And they had designed and CNC'd machined these big aluminum brackets. Just think of like a big trapezoidal bracket, like this big, with gussets, lightened, and then mounting holes for bolts. In our world, a super simple part. And so he was getting some service done, and he was like, hey, we need a couple more of these brackets. We didn't get enough of them made. You guys, I can hear the CNC machines. Can you guys machine some of these for us? And so Nate and I look at it.
I was actually looking to see if I still have the files.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, we can do that. And it's the kind of thing that if it was for a car, this exact part, let's say it was part of a suspension, we probably would have sold it for like $200. And so I asked the guy, I'm like, how many do you need? He's like, I need like 4, which isn't a lot, right? But to set up a CNC machine to machine only 4 things. I'm like, well, what are they worth to you? And I think he was like, I could pay like $2,000 each.
It was something absurd.
$2,000 each for something that we could sell for $250 as a car part. So I was like, fuck yeah, you know, and we cleared a CNC machine and we made these brackets for him and made a ton of money. And again, like I like making car parts. I didn't want to go out and try to find if Cisco and Amazon and Microsoft needed a bunch of these brackets either.
I did find a folder here for NASA. We did some little bracket for Ames at one
for
point.
Also a ton of money. So we went back to making car parts after that, and have ever since. That was like probably 12 years ago. But just to prove that point is that, you know, we're talking about $1 billion server, a company that has $500 million a year of revenue. They're not going to like nitpick the price of an aluminum bracket, right? So those are the kind of things that get made in the U.S. Americans are smart, and they know that they can use the same amount of time and energy to produce 100 times X the income. They're going to do that instead. So I didn't plan on talking about this, and it's an interesting question. I could talk about this all day. But I will say, I'll finish with, at 034, we don't talk about where our products are made. And what we say is, these products are made by 034 Motorsport. And that means that regardless of whether and sometimes we have the same exact parts made in 2 different countries. We have some parts that are made in the U.S. and some of the production is made in the U.S. Some of the production is made in China. And to you, the customer, there's no ability that you're going to have to tell the difference between where the product is made. And that means that 034 Motorsport essentially made this product. It means we managed the specifications, the quality. We oversaw that. The QC, everything is our standard. And where it's made has nothing to do with the quality. The expectations and the requirements that we put on the manufacturer is what determines the quality. And, you know, this phone, which is a world-class device, Androids too, they're all made in China, right? So China can make really good stuff. So can Vietnam. So can India. But you can't just put your finger to the wind. You have to actually develop these products and make sure they're made to the standard. And
yeah, we've done a lot of exercises trying to, you know, onshore as much as we can. It is not, for a lot of the reasons Joe stated, it has not gone well. The machine shops we found that have had some time and capacity, we found out why they have time and capacity.
In the U.S.
In the U.S.
Yeah, it was awful.
It was terrible, both from communication to the parts we received to, I'm not saying, of course, there's a lot of really good machine shops and very skilled people out there, but they're usually very busy.
They're doing aerospace stuff. Yeah. And I'll finish with this, is we would love to make everything in the U.S. if we could.
100%.
And if we could offer it at a price that would make sense, or if we could even get it made, we would absolutely do it in the U.S. There's no reason. But the good news is the money that is made on any of these products goes to America. It goes to pay the rent in America. It goes to pay employees who are American. You know, the vast majority of the money that's made off selling products made in China, even for U.S. companies, is kept in the U.S. A little bit of it stays in China, but I wish we could get more manufacturing here, but also I don't. You know, those are low-paying jobs. They create a lot of pollution. Nobody wants those factories in their neighborhood or in their backyard. So it's a tough call.
Yeah, I mean, just look at where any of the OEMs are getting their components as well. I mean, that was one of the big recent issues, is that all the vehicles made in America are not made in America. 100%. There's components and subcomponents that are all over the world. It's a very global supply chain for pretty much every product you can think of.
Yeah, I mean, go on the Garrett Honeywell. I always say go on the Garrett Honeywell site, and if you click on the right things, you can see where they have products made, and it's like 80 different countries. So these days in our world, manufacturing really is a global effort, but it'll be interesting to see how some of the things that the government is doing right now will change and impact that. It's going to be interesting ride. I tried your launch control on your B9 A4 ECU TCU, and it was a lot more brutal. Can you explain the differences in your settings versus the stock? I also heard a loud thud when launching. Was that the clutch?
No, like very likely wasn't the clutch. If I don't know any of the other parts in your car, usually if it's a thud, it's something in your trunk or like motor mount, transmission mount, driveline mount stuff is
Yeah.
usually where you'll hear something on like a launch like that.
It's hard to say what that.
Yeah, I can't diagnose that from here. Could be body in the trunk. Who knows? As far as why it's more brutal, it's all in the mapping and how we handle the clutch engagement and how that's applied and the torque delivery is managed in the transmission and what it allows the ECU to do with it. So yeah, it is much quicker than stock. So yeah, it's all in the programming. It's why we do what we do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you said, it's more aggressive. So power is being applied faster. The clutches are grabbing sooner.
Yeah.
More power is being produced, and all that.
And as far as
gives you that launch.
Yeah, when we've logged, like clutch temperatures and pressures and stuff, the actual clutch temperatures are much lower on our TCU file than stock, just because there's less slip going on. It's a quicker engagement. You're into full lockup where you're not generating any more heat much sooner.
I was asking Nate, how are you liking the Syvecs OEX? From an engineering standpoint, it seems like a pretty advanced unit.
Yeah, it's a good system. I mean, it's very capable. It's almost a full standalone, you could say. It's a very flexible unit. You can do a lot of different things with it. We've got it working in a pretty neat way with our system. So here's a follow-up. You guys mentioned the OEX for MPI. But Syvecs says the OEX is capable of more things besides just MPI, like water mass nitrous. Yeah, there's a lot of other stuff. There's a huge amount of expandability. So that's one of the things that some people have gotten excited for that we're using this unit is, yeah, you can use it for the MPI side that we're tying it in with. But if you want to add all these other features and roll your own stuff, there's a lot more you can do with it.
I mean, almost anything.
Yeah, I mean, as far as controlling systems around the motor, you can do quite a lot with that system.
You can control like a seat massager that comes on under boost.
Yep, that's 100% doable.
Breaking news, rumor has it a 034 B9 RS5 customer has tied the overall B9 stock block world record S4, 400-pound difference. And a third 034 RS5, this time a Sportback, has broken in the nines. What a time to be alive and own a 034 B9 RS5.
Awesome.
That's true. I can't agree more. And
I've been
great job.
Yeah, I've been commuting in ours the last week or so. That car's a riot.
It's a ridiculous cover. Yeah, congrats to Arnon. And Jose. Good job, guys, for getting out there. Thanks for representing us so well. But for us, it's just great to see you guys loving and enjoying your cars. That's what it's all about. About to get a DSG transmission tune in my 8V A3. Am I going to notice a significant difference in my 0 to 60 from just the DSG tune? Sounds like something.
I mean, a bit, yes. The shifts are quicker. Generally the shift points are a little more optimized. They're a little more performance oriented, you could say. So yeah, you'll get certainly a bit of an improvement from the DSG. It's not going to be like the same kind of difference you see from the ECU side on these cars, but it'll certainly improve.
Can you shed some light on this new TT810? Apparently there's some tweaks, changes were made to make it more reliable. Yeah, so I do talk to TTE about all their Audi turbo developments, and since we're a major testing partner for them and the turbos, so a lot of what you're seeing in the future from TT will be in part thanks to our feedback, or we're thankful to be a part of the feedback. But the 810 Plus. So what they found is in some turbos, and we haven't seen widespread failures, but there have been a few failures here and there, is that there was this resonance that was causing destructive forces in the turbo. And so they went in and rebalanced the turbine shaft through some different machining and material removal to change the balancing and optimize for that resonance. So the flow and the performance of the turbo is really not changed. It's simply a more reliable, smoother running turbo. It won't require any calibration changes or anything like that. There are a number of turbo updates coming down the pike, new turbo options as well. So you'll have to wait to stay tuned for those. But the A10 Plus is shipping. It started shipping recently, and it'll be trickling out on the market. The good news is TT stands behind their turbos, and every customer that, which is I think I've maybe heard of 2 or 3 out of many hundreds that we've sold, have all been taken care of. So yeah, they stand behind their product, which is great. It's why we like working with them. One of the reasons we like working with them. Will there be any sound clips of the new super duper open intake for the RS5? We should do that. Yes. Oh, apparently they're going to be uploaded today. Is that just a coincidence or a little nudge that was needed?
No.
Coincidence. Oh, all right. Yeah, so if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, you should. Then you'll be notified of all these awesome new videos that come out.
It'll be on Uncut.
On the Uncut channel. But you should subscribe to our 034 channel and 034 Uncut just to be safe. Is the pendulum mount needed with the upper and lower mounts for an AYS3? It's not needed. So the upper and lower inserts would work on a perfectly stock car and help reduce the transmission movements. The pendulum mount further removes any slop from the pendulum mount, which there is. I lose track on the AYS3, but it's just the solid aluminum stiffer part with spherical, so there's no rubber bushings or anything. You can add that if you'd like a little bit more reduction in rubber deflection, but it's not needed. It's just a further stage you can go with the dog-bone mount system. On a C7.5 S6, which model of the lower control arm do I need? It should be pretty clear on our website. If you put in your year, make, model, give that a try. Could be the late M14. You can also there's no easy visual reference, is there?
The notes for all vehicles where there's like little changes, all detailed on every product.
It's on the product page for what you can, discern from there.
Check out the product page. That's your best bet. What is a decent sized crank pulley to run with the stock supercharger pulley? I don't want to run a 207.
I mean, one of my favorite go-tos is the 179. Just that gets you into this
with
normal
stock pulley.
with a stock upper pulley. That's a normal stage 2 setup.
Yeah,
Gets you a nice amount of belt wrap on everything, so there's really no slipping issues. So yeah, it's as far as a nice bump up in power, the 179 is a really solid bet. And we've got the 190 as well if you want a little more jam than that, but I'd start with the 179.
With the B9 platform, when do we really need to forge the crank and put in pistons and rods and cams and a head stud kit? To what certain horsepower will be safe? There's no simple answer to this. However, I think if the best thing I could say is if you'd like to stay within what we feel are the stock engine margin of safety, so take a stock engine, put a TTE 810 or similar on it. Our stage 3 standard output file is the file that we would recommend to be completely safe and well within the margin of safety. With that said, we offer a high output file, and if you have a verified, well-running car with good injectors and good ignition components, we have many customers running our high output file on the street with a TTE 810 or similar, and on E85 with a completely stock block. However, the margin of safety is reduced with that setup, and you are closer to the edge. So is it still safe? Yes, it's just not as safe. And so what we see on, for example, cars that are driven on track or driven hard on the street is that they'll start lifting the heads, which means they need head studs. And then in very rare cases, we see the piston failure with the piston cracking and causing a catastrophic failure of the piston. So we don't see that nearly as much or at all on the standard output files. And so those are within the margin of safety. I think once we get to the point where, and by the way, you don't have to mess with the crank, but like if you go just look at our engine build package on our website with the forged powder rods, forged pistons, and head studs and the supporting parts, that's a solid, reliable setup for stage 3 high output. Because you eliminate the head lifting issue, you eliminate the factory piston failure issue. So, yeah. If you want to have a solid, reliable setup and not have to worry about it, the standard output file is still insanely fast, very powerful. I've driven it extensively on the street and track. It's not going to be a slouch, but you do give up, about 75 horsepower from the high output file. But that extra 75 horsepower buys you a lot of safety, margin of safety.
Mm-hmm.
I've done long descriptions of kind of the margin of safety and getting closer to the edge. Usually like to use a bungee jumping example. If you're bungee jumping, they can make it so that your head gets 1 foot from the ground, or they can make it so your head gets 50 feet from the ground. They're both safe. Your head's not going to hit the ground. But if anything's wrong with the 1 foot, your head's going to smash into the ground. And so if you don't want to have to worry about it at all, and even if something goes wrong, your head, instead of being 50 feet from the ground, is now 20 feet from the ground, you're still within the margin of safety. So that safety net buys you a lot of safety. You don't need the safety net, but if you want a bigger safety net, the standard output's for you. Install your B9 ResX front resonator delete, and after a few months, NVH increased, specifically on the front clamp joints. Thoughts? Any suggestions on how to reduce NVH? I'm not sure why NVH would increase unless there was a leak.
NVH from ResX kit?
Or something's hitting. So I would suggest sending an email to techsupport@034motorsport.com, and we will be happy to assist you. What we'll need is some pictures and additional information so we can help you diagnose that. I've never personally heard of that problem. Yeah, I mean, as always, just make sure it's installed correctly, everything's torqued down tightly. But if something's rattling or loose, yeah, you're gonna have noise from that for sure. What's the level of importance for your intercooler for stage 2 on B9.5 if you have all the required but just not the intercooler for a short bit?
Intercooler is required. I mean, for a short bit, I mean, if you're just talking like driving around and not, full send everywhere, then you'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't need the intercooler to drive the car. What you do need it for is hard acceleration, wide open throttle pulls through multiple gears. Do not do that unless you have the intercooler. But if you just want to squirt around, and just go brah, and just drive around normally, commute, stuff like that, you don't need the intercooler. But yeah, you should avoid really loading it up or trying to achieve maximum performance from the file, because the ECU will go into protection and bring the boost and power way down as soon as temps skyrocket. But like I said, you don't need it to drive around just normally, or even at kind of part throttle or anything like that. You can even squirt through and floor it at 3,000 and lift at 5 and then let it cool back off. But the stock intercooler will heat soak immediately as soon as the turbo comes on. I was curious if I went stage 1 on my B8 S4 when it comes time for my smog check. What is the process for going back to untune?
B8, you are. I mean, we have a carb EO for that, so there's no issue at all. Get your carb EO sticker, email us tuning app. We can get you set up with that, and yeah, it's 50 state legal. You're good to go for 91, 93, any of those setups on our carb file.
What made you guys choose to support the MRA 1900? What caught your attention about this blower or interest in it? That's a good question.
It's a good question. It was. I mean,
it's a good option.
It's a well-engineered kit.
Yeah.
It's a good option out there. It's a decently sized setup.
I think that's the thing. It's the first supercharger kit, upgrade kit that's come on the market that has more flow potential than the stock.
That it has larger intercooler cores. A lot of the other kits out there reused the stock cores, which are already undersized. So I had a number of things going for it. So we're obviously still working with it and still going through some of the paces with it. But no, it is a well
and to be honest, Jose is a great guy. We've gotten to know him. He's worked with us collaboratively and positively. He's seems to be immune to the drama and bullshit in the market, which is really nice. Finally,
he keeps trying to get. There's many that try and drag him.
Everyone's trying to drag him into it.
But no, he's been a shining star of the aftermarket field.
He's a great guy, and like there's that saying in business: you do business with people who you like, and we like Jose. We appreciate him. He came and visited us. We took him to the track, melted his face off a couple times, and he loves cars. And I truly believe that he cares about his products and he's trying really hard to do the best that he can do.
Yep.
And that's also rare in our industry. So we're like-minded in that way. And I think if it wasn't for Jose being who he is, we wouldn't have put as much time and energy into the kit as we have. And the converse is it's also why we don't work with a lot of people in the industry because they're not like that. So,
or just you see the random kits pop up here and there, and there's reasons we don't jump on all of them.
Yeah, Magnuson had a kit on the market, but like Nate said, it used the stock intercooler, so it didn't really address the major restriction points. One of the major restriction points. So it's like I don't know if you needed bigger feet to run faster. But you didn't make your shoes bigger. It's like, well, it's nice. The feet are bigger, but the shoes still don't fit. So you can't run any faster without the bigger shoes.
You're gonna write a book of these, right?
Yeah. Okay. I think there's animals that run faster because of their feet size.
I mean,
so I think that's the thing.
I've seen kangaroos' feet.
Have you seen kangaroos go full tilt? Like 50 miles an hour.
I don't even want to know. Those things are scary. Dude.
It's insane, and they're just
like
hopping.
The most ripped critters.
And their hops are like 30 feet between hops at 50 miles an hour. It's unbelievable.
I'm fine not tangling.
Yeah, it's like a greyhound at full speed or a cheetah
leaping over vehicles.
Yeah. Amax shifting for the 8Y S3 platform.
It's already there on all of our TCU tunes. So Amax is definitely a thing on that platform.
Now is that like the Klimax? I think they're probably.
It's not. No, it's not the same as the Klimax stuff.
That's what
Amax shifting is certainly already there. Yeah. Now, if you're looking for like the rolling Amax or the fully Amax shifting all the time thing, we do not have a calibration for that currently. Yeah. Nor has anybody really asked for it.
That car shifts fast and nicely. Why only Nardo Gray RS5s get into the 9s?
Hey, ours was in the 9. We're not a Nardo Gray.
No, ours is silver.
But it is not a customer-owned Nardo or silver car.
Yeah, both customer-owned ones are Nardo, probably because they're unpainted.
It's got to be that paint reduction, the weight reduction in the paint.
Well, it's primer.
Yeah.
What is the theoretical max PSI or pressure ratio for the MR 1900?
Pulley ratio? I don't know. I don't have those numbers in the top of my head because they're all different than the stock stuff. Theoretical max, they say PSI.
PSI.
ugh,
I don't know what that.
I don't know. There's. I mean, you could keep running and running and running with them until they really nose over.
But what's the max practical good performing? And remember that 25 psi.
I mean, I don't know that we've run it past where it's. I haven't run up to that yet. I mean, yeah, we're at like 25 or so psi on a lot of the setups.
So it's 25.
It's the motor, with the compression ratio and everything on most of these motors. You probably aren't going to get much more out of it beyond that.
And
it's going to depend on fuel and octane and all the normal stuff.
Whatever the max RPM of 18,000 does.
Yeah, but that's their quoted limit. I mean, if we stuck to the quoted charger limits on the stock blower, we would.
It's like half.
Yeah, we'd be in a very slow world. So no, it's like staying within a turbo's pressure map. If you're running for it, it's a suggestion.
I don't think this is what they were asking, but I just want to address this, that more boost isn't always better. It's better up to a certain point, but then you run into efficiency problems. And so these power adder devices like superchargers and turbochargers, it's like Whipple superchargers or centrifugal, they work by grabbing air and forcing it, past their screws or compressor wheels or whatever the mechanical device that's grabbing air and pushing it. And that beats up the air and creates a lot of friction with the air. Just like when a meteor comes into the Earth's atmosphere and like literally catches on fire and explodes because it gets so hot. The compressor wheel or the screws, like in a Whipple, there's these two big screws, like meat grinders. And they heat up the air when they interact with it because of friction and the thermodynamics of compressing air. It's the same with an air compressor. When you have an air compressor in your shop, it's heating up the air as it compresses it, and when it comes out, it cools down. So there's some thermodynamics involved and some friction involved, and all that makes your air hotter. And so there's a point where you can compress the air and create more heat and manage the heat through the intercooling system. But at some point, the supercharger's efficiency starts producing more heat than pressure. And at that point, typically your cooling system is overwhelmed. And then you start losing power the more boost you make. So you make more power up to that point and then less. This is kind of similar to like if you were on a treadmill in a gym and they could control the temperature. And let's say you can run at, 7 miles a minute rate if the temperature is 80 degrees. But at 110 degrees, you're not going to be able to keep up that because your body will be overheating. And at 120 or 130 degrees, it will drop substantially. So just because you push harder and expend more energy doesn't mean you're going to go faster. And this is the same thing with a supercharger or turbocharger. So what we're saying is basically 25 psi is probably it for the MR1900, given the intercooler system that's in it. And you wouldn't want to go to it with a bigger supercharger if you want to produce a lot more boost than that. I found Bilstein shocks with dynamic ride control that are made for OEM springs. However, I'm using your 034 springs, which are designed with OEM shocks with DRC. Would they work okay? I think likely they'll work okay. We can't say. We don't go out and test all the different aftermarket shocks out there. However, I do hear more and more about instances where customers are running our springs with Bilstein, various Bilstein options, and they like it.
Yeah. There was one model I know that had an issue, and people kept pointing them to our upper mounts, but they were undercutting the threads on the top mount. I want to say it's either MQB or
Bilstein
Mark 6. I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
But yeah, the threads where they came down through the mount, there was a big undercut in there, which removed a bunch more material than needed, and they actually were a failure point on them.
But people were blaming our strut mount,
and they thought it was a strut mount. Yeah, but then you look at the machining on it, and it was the strut was machined different than stock. Yeah,
so proceed with caution. Again, we don't test this stuff, but assuming it's a direct replacement for stock, it should be fine, and you'll have to see. But up till now, we've looked into selling aftermarket shocks like Bilstein. We've had the opportunity to go work with OEM shock manufacturers, and given the fact that our springs work so well with the factory dampers and they're readily available and they're not cheap, but they do last a long time. We just haven't gone that extra step, but we could make more money if we did, I'm sure, but we got plenty of other stuff to work on. Anything else we should jump on?
Somebody else was asking about
Number 4.
What do you recommend having on a B9.5 for stage 1 ECU and stage 2 TCU tune? Currently, I have an upgraded AWE touring exhaust and a cold air intake from you guys.
You're in a good position for a stage 1 ECU and the stage 2 TCU. The next upgrade we strongly recommend is going to be intercooler.
Yeah.
So that's really where you want to be looking for the next power adder parts.
Yeah. Someone's asking, how durable is this CWGD engine when it comes to tune with stock parts? This is on the B9 S4 3.0 motor. Yeah, we talk about this a lot. I just
we
kind of got
just went over
done talking about it. But they're actually very reliable considering. We have many customers running around like thousands, making 500-600 plus horsepower on a bone stock motor, which is essentially double, almost double what they came with. So that makes it a very tough, robust, reliable motor. In fact, substantially more reliable or tough than, say, the B5 S4 APB V6. That people were building those at kind of the 450 horsepower level, fully forged motors. Nobody was pushing them to 600, 700, 800 crank. With that said, there is a relatively rare problem with the factory pistons where they just crack. And I would say for no reason. They crack in a way that they shouldn't. We will release more information about our findings. We've been studying this for the last year and working with some independent laboratories and things like that to help us get a better understanding of the stock pistons failing in this way. For what it's worth, the stock pistons, we observed this failure in bone stock vehicles. In fact, many dealerships see these failures as well.
Someone posted it. It's posted this weekend too. They had bought a car that ended up ultimately having just destroyed ringlands. It was a stock everything.
Yeah,
bum lock.
But it's still a very reliable motor. Every motor fails and has issues. There's no perfect motor, and every Volkswagen, Audi motor that we've worked with, has some kind of issue. The i5 motors are pretty freaking durable, but even those were
not if you want to drive them on track.
Yeah.
Like the old i5s, they'd sling oil like it was no.
Well, there's that, but they weren't like
they were
melting down or
yeah, there were plenty of
pistons
issues.
or anything. But again, people were building those.
As I say, those got built at like 250
Yeah.
horsepower. I mean, you try and boost a 10 valve, and it's just knock city and all kinds of limits.
But yeah, no, it's a reliable motor, but it doesn't mean it never has issues. There are some out there. We've surveyed our customer base and have found that less than 2% of our tuned customers have ever had a mechanical issue with their engine. So take that for what it's worth. Anything else?
Oh yeah, we
just want to make sure we get to all the good ones.
Yep.
11 would be interesting.
That's impossible to answer.
How do you think that all the EPA news changes will affect tuning and modding in the near future? To be honest, I've been following all the tariff stuff and all the rest of it. I haven't heard too much about EPA. Is there something?
It was like,
Are they
along
like
the lines of like gutting a lot of it out?
That's just everything that they're going through. Who knows what it means? Like in the end.
Yeah, I'll have to read up on that. There is obviously a huge effort going on to reduce the size of federal government, factually speaking. So yeah, I don't know. I can't say for sure how that would affect what we're all doing. However, we have worked hard to be EPA compliant, and I think our customers can tune their cars with our products, with confidence, knowing that what we're doing is currently compliant with EPA standards. So, not to say that everything our customers do is, but we've just to reduce liability and to be compliant have worked very hard towards that.
13.
For an ABS3, will adding a front sway bar along with a rear sway bar create understeer? No. Well, not ours. We design our sway bars to help these MQB cars turn better with the bigger front sway bar and the rear bar in combination. So if you run our springs, our front and rear sway bar set, and do some of the other supporting mods, but those two things mainly, and add some camber to the front with our fixed camber mounts, or a camster mount, the car develops an eerie ability to turn in and track where you turn the steering wheel, unlike other front wheel drive cars that tend to love to push really badly. The front sway bar is key because that keeps both tires, the more weight on the front tires, especially on the inside tire, and you need that as you're cornering to put down power. So that extra grip allows the car to accelerate and to apply power instead of spinning a tire. So yeah, no, I would strongly recommend doing the front and rear bars, and really enjoying what I'm referring to. What kind of beating should the MQB Density line mount see before needing to upgrade, say, 400 to 500 wheel torque? I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I will say our density mounts aren't necessarily a lot stronger than stock mounts. They still use the same basic rubber construction and cast aluminum construction as the factory mounts. Our mounts are stiffer, so they will perform in a way that's stiffer, but if the factory mount's going to fail on some big raunchy clutch dump, then it's likely our mount will fail in a similar way. So if you're really looking to push and put down that kind of power, strongly recommend our motorsport street sport mounts or our track sport mounts. Street sport, if you're looking for the less NVH option. Those mounts are substantially more durable and stronger than the factory mounts, and we guarantee them to hold up to anything that you throw at it. If the mount fails, they have a lifetime warranty. Our MQB mounts do too, though the lifetime warranty is more related to manufacturing defects, not like holding up to huge clutch dumps and stuff like that. But our motorsport mounts, it's like we dare you to try to break it. So that's the strong mount if you're looking for. Yeah, density stuff's normal wear and tear. That's you would see from using the mounts for what they're intended for. But they're not drag racing mounts. They're not designed to hold up to 500-600 horsepower clutch dumps and stuff like that. But you can definitely use them with 500-600 horsepower cars. Just not, that shock loading is what really breaks things. Can I run a smaller pulley on a stage 1 tune on a B8.5 S4?
No, the stage 1 tune is designed for stock pulleys.
Stock pulleys.
I mean, that said, if you're always at altitude, we have had some people that slightly overdrive the charger
and get away with it.
And can get away with it.
Hey folks, just got an email about the update on the S5 B9 tune. I'm about to update the files, but I can't seem to find the patch notes. Can you talk a little bit about the new stuff introduced in the last update?
Hold on, I need to get questions here. The last update patch notes. Here we go.
Shouldn't it be in the email?
That's an old.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been an older email. We haven't done a mass emailing on those in quite a bit.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, there was. I'm trying to think here when he would have seen that. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of like housekeeping stuff we did. There's some little changes here and there, but it would have all been detailed out in that email. So if you just got an email, I'm not sure where that, which email you're referring to.
Is there really any more gains to be seen from the factory 1320 blower, even if ported into max effort? How will that compare to CREC engines on the Stage 2 Plus and E85?
So they're saying if they've already got a ported blower.
Yeah, I mean, like a maxed out 1320, they're asking, is there anything past that?
I mean, if it's maxed out, then no. I mean, not really. There's, there's.
I mean, our cams.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just thinking just on the blower side of what you can work on. But yeah, no, there's other motor mods for sure. Yeah, the cams.
Yeah.
Depending on if you're running the stock manifolds and stuff, exhaust manifolds,
Yeah.
it can start to be a bit of a restriction. You can, if you've got, depending on what fuel you've got available to you, there's stuff like going to E85 and, we'll be working on a full E85 solution soon. So there's a lot of stuff coming. But as far as the blower itself, I think those are probably pretty topped out.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing so much more than anyone thought they would. 5-6 years ago. I remember when APR released their Stage 3 kit, everyone thought that that's what you needed. And we're making 150 more horsepower than their Stage 3 kit was back then on the stock blower. So not even including, the 1900 Merc Racing option. Have you guys heard of any alternator whines on the B9 S5 S4?
No.
Is this like a? What do you mean? What do they mean? Like
ground loop
physically whining or ground loop?
The only whining part is the transmission.
I thought you were going to say the well, transmission. What like
when the ZF gets hot,
and you have mains and stuff.
No, both stuff.
Okay.
No, I don't think I can't recall any noise that I've heard that would have attributed to the alternator.
Yeah. I'm sure if you try to put an aftermarket stereo and you mess things up, you'll definitely get alternator whine.
Yeah, the ground loop
through the ground loop electrical system. That's when I used to do car audio. That was the bane of existence. One of the reasons I stopped doing it. Every fucking car had these ground loops and trying to get rid of it.
Yep. Get your ground loop isolators out.
Yeah, and they never
work.
Will you ever make a full E85 tuner kit for the S4 B8?
Nope. Yeah, we kind of
just talking about.
So it'll be it'll need to have MPI obviously for so it'll have to be the stuff we're working on now with the bigger blowers.
Mm-hmm. Does the Stage 2 tune come with pops and bangs? Any way to modify the tune to make it pop a little more? Already bought, but curious for my install this afternoon. On
it's a Mark 5.
Mark 5.
It can be added by request if it's not on your box code already. So hit us up and we can add it if it's not already there.
Tuning at 034 Motorsport. I get the Syvecs controller to control my low pressure fuel pump, MPI, electronic wastegate when going to a twin charger setup on my C7 A6. When you guys help me tune it correctly, it's already Stage 2 Plus.
Probably not. Those are when you get into such a bespoke setup. It's that's a lot of moving parts there when you start to add turbos and things.
Yeah, not unless it's something that could apply to hundreds of other customers at least. So that's kind of in the realm of custom. That's where custom tuning is good. You can go find a good, capable custom tuner to help you set that up. But we want to put the work and engineering into helping lots of people, not just one person. Not that we don't.
I would love
helping
to.
one person.
Don't get me wrong. There's the hours in the day are few and getting fewer.
For us to maintain the business financially and to continue to grow and offer the kind of products and services that we like, that's not our business model. And you'll notice there's really no big size tuning company like us that does that kind of custom tuning. It's the thing that smaller shops can typically carve out and do well with. Hello, when is stage 3 and ethanol maps coming for A4 B9?
Yep, coming soon. The E85 stuff we're basically done. We're just doing some final testing, but that is going to require fuel pump upgrades on the high pressure side,
which we have.
Yep. So yeah,
Requires a vacuum.
it's the vacuum pump
The vacuum.
that allows you to upgrade to the 2-liter cell pump. So yeah,
Like
that was
stage 3.
and then stage 3
This is the TTE 440L B9 A4 turbo. That's we will be using on our stage 3 kit. Very excited to get stage 3 power out for the B9 A4. So we're currently working on this and developing this as well. So yeah. We get this question every so often. How much boost should a stage 2 B9 S5 be making? The answer is not really simple.
It's not a simple answer. It is a torque request system that is doing a lot of calculations to figure out how much air it needs to make a certain amount of torque. So the best way I can say to tell is by logging it, and you can see your requested boost versus actual boost. And the requested boost is how much it should be making. Now, granted, if you've got fault codes and other things, and there's some other thing going on that will affect your requested boost, and it might be lower than it should be. But with a good normal running setup, you can log in or watch those parameters on the gauges and see where it's at. But it is not a static number by any means. It's all over the place. Even a constant like single gear pull, it's going to peak and then taper down. How much it peaks and what it hits is going to depend on the fuel you're running, the temperatures you're running in, and a bunch of other conditions. So, what altitude you're at, it's a very, very moving target.
Just picked up a 2017 B8.5 S5 and just installed your guys' new intake. Was wondering if you would recommend any sporting mods for a stage 1 tune. Definitely heat exchanger.
Yeah, heat exchanger.
You have the intake.
And if you just picked up the car, I'm going to give you go through the maintenance of it. Injectors are usually due if you don't know the history on them. It's a good idea to get fresh injectors in there. And
really good idea.
Intercooler bricks as well. Make sure you give those a good look over.
I mean, they're cheap, right?
The injectors, yeah. I mean,
and the intercooler
bricks,
they're both cheap.
I mean, in the scheme of things, yes. It's maintenance that should be done.
Could prevent an engine failure.
Yep.
And then stage 2 stuff's right around the corner for it. Do you plan to have any lower control arms for the Mk7 GTI that don't increase caster? I say for clearance purposes, I'd rather not push it. Yeah, we don't currently have plans for that. The product becomes less functional, less substantive by removing that. So that's a lot of what you can get with the stock control arm.
Are they just looking for like the lower, like adjustment on the lower side as well?
Yeah,
they just want the camera.
Yeah, so I mean, it wouldn't be hard to do. If that's something people really want, we would do it. But that extra caster is really nice.
I feel like that can be done just with a ball joint change, though, versus the whole control arm.
Yeah,
if we're not changing the geometry of the arm.
Yeah, we could offer a slightly different ball joint as well. You're right. Anything we should jump on at the last minute?
3.
Yeah, maybe number 2.
Well, we've talked about 3 so much.
Yeah.
Hesitant to say much more. On the Dl501 Klimax tune update, will the torque limit be the same as before, or will there be a higher torque limit? I remember hearing the 1900 was near the limit. That's why the DSG tune was remapped.
It wasn't that the 1900 was near the limit per se. It was that we did a bunch more testing around the same time and found the root cause of what would you say, the gear drop issue, which isn't a gear drop, but it's other things. So that was the primary fix around the Klimax tune. And then in the same vein, we also allowed for and reworked how the torque calculations and stuff are done, and how the torque handling is done, or the clutch controls are done in the TCU, which results in even better clutch management and torque holding. So it was kind of got a lot of updates and tweaks and refinements added in that one update.
Yeah. Lower control arm follow-up. I have caster top hats. Just want better bushings. Cool. Okay, well.
Oh, just for the I see.
Yeah, I mean, we've also considered doing density bushings for those arms, but those press-in bushings can be problematic.
Yeah.
Because the tolerances can vary, even on stock arms. The factory bushings are super squishy, so the factory doesn't have to control the tolerances on the arm side very much. Where our bushings are stiffer, so they have less compliance.
We've also seen that depending on like the year, make, and model, like where that arm was made, they'll vary quite a bit because it's just it's a part that fits, and it's not the subcomponents of that may not be called out to a super high tolerance. Just like they need a certain set of parameters.
And then the bushings are so squishy that they can squeeze into these different tolerance.
We've done machine bushings for some of these, and it'll fits great and all the stuff we developed it for, and then you get some other stock arm that comes along. It's way bigger or smaller than what we were testing with, so it can be messy.
Yep. Well, I think that's about it.
Yeah. All right, guys.
All right, thanks, guys. I think we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
All right, cheers.